Hey everyone, and welcome to Module 2, which is our first content-based module for the course. I hope that you all had a good time, if you will, learning who each other is in the class. This is a very large class, I have come to find out recently. I'm recording all of these lectures, or this particular lecture, for the first couple of modules before the semester's even started, so I'm just getting the finalized class list. This is a large class, there's a lot of you, so hopefully you guys are getting to know each other in those introductory discussion posts within this class and others that you have. So now we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of the actual work that we might be doing for the semester. And for this particular module, it is one of those where it's a little bit heavier on the reading side of things, but we're covering both chapters 1 and 2. And so I hope that in reading both of these chapters that you'll have a better understanding of why I selected this particular textbook. I always try to select textbooks with intention, and because of my teaching philosophy and my approach to teaching in general as being constructivist. So I really like the focus of the book, and it acknowledging, especially in chapter 2, some of those typical concerns that students have, the bad rap that research classes get, statistics classes get in education programs, acknowledging that there's apprehension and some anxiety that can come from just participating in a research class, and kind of putting me on the spot as an educator and saying there are things that I can do to mitigate that for you all, which I certainly do hope to do in this class. So again, I'm going to reiterate, if you have not looked at the course schedule, if you have not reviewed the syllabus, please take time to do that. If you have not received or ordered your APA manual, definitely want to be doing that, because we're really going to be getting into writing style very, very soon. But for this week, I really just wanted you to get an introduction to the textbooks itself and then how the flow of the course is going to go. So within the eCampus, hopefully you guys have checked out this module. As I said before, modules will open up on Friday. I don't always post PowerPoints. For this class in particular, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes there are more visuals within the actual module itself. Sometimes there are PowerPoints that might accompany a presentation that I'm doing as well, or a lecture. This week we don't have any PowerPoints. What I do offer is the notes from the chapters, and so those I feel are really important because they're a supplement that is afforded to me as the instructor that picked out this text, and I like to pass them fully on to you all to get those chapter notes from Hepner. I feel like they really condense nicely the key points in each chapter. And you know, you're not taking a final exam in my class, but I always say you need to hold on to this stuff, because when you go to take those exams, when you've graduated, the NCE exam has a section on research, and so all this stuff you're going to want to kind of keep on hand so that you can study it later on. But for now, let's just kind of quickly go over, I think, you know, some of the most important parts of chapters 1 and 2. So you all will find, and I know that the majority of you in this class are, this is your first semester, your first year of the program. Some of you, this is not. You're a little bit farther along in the program. So for those of you that are just starting, you might not know, or you may know, but there are theories that inform the work that we do as counselors. You're in my 501 class. You're definitely going to be getting an introduction to that during our immersion week. If you've already had those classes, you certainly know about the theories that are out there. But there's always theories, and within those theories there are basic tenets, there's techniques, there's best practices, evidence-based practices. Those two terms are kind of interchangeable, if you will. And so we're never going into a counseling session the way that you might have it in the way that it maybe has been interpreted or put out there in media, right? You're not, and really, even if you've been to a counselor yourself, you may not fully understand all of the work that goes into the preparation for each one of those counseling sessions. So every counselor should be practicing from a theoretical orientation. I know this might sound a little bit off topic since we're talking about research, but I promise it does all come together. So you're never going into a counseling session thinking, I don't know what we're going to be talking about today. I have no goal. I have no plan. We're just going to, go with it. There's always some type of structure within a counseling session, even if it doesn't seem obvious or very apparent. So our work as counselors is informed when we're working with clients, when we're working with couples, if we're working in a family unit, whoever it might be that our client population is. Our work is always informed by a theory, right? Supervision is informed by theory. Supervision that you're getting from your site supervisors, supervision you're getting from your faculty supervisors, there's models of supervision, and then there's theories of supervision. And so if you think about all of the work that counselors do, logically, I would hope, and really for any scientist, we would hope that the work that any scientist is doing in terms of research and program evaluation is being informed by something, right? People aren't just going into a research study without, thinking about why they're doing it, the why behind it. Why do they want to be studying what they're studying? Why is it important? Is it needed? Is it necessary? So, and how are they going to do it? And how are results going to be analyzed? And how are limitations going to be addressed within that research study? So even within research, and that's where we start talking about this in chapter 1, research and researchers and their work is informed by theories. And there's different theories and different philosophies of research that have evolved over time, and different ways that researchers may approach their type of research. And you'll find that a lot of times, if a researchers may be drawn more to qualitative versus quantitative research, and we'll learn about the differences between those two and the different subtypes of research that can be done. But if you have somebody that is really drawn to qualitative research and really likes engaging and interacting in focus groups and doing interviews and ethnographic studies, they may really stay in that niche for their career, their research career. Other times you may have, researchers who take the more traditional route and the quantitative research, which, I think in the scientific community, it was always looked at as that having the most value, intrinsic value. But I think we're now seeing a shift, especially in the social sciences and in the world of counseling, where there's equal value for both forms of research. So researchers will have kind of their preferences, right? They will have reasons for wanting to conduct research, reasons for wanting to continue on with it after they've done it once or twice, because it really is not easy all the time. It takes some thick skin to be a researcher, and that all goes into part of the process, right? And that's all part of the foundations of research and counseling. So when you're looking at kind of following through with that scientific method and putting those hypotheses out and, making informed decisions and going through the process of conducting research and narrowing down populations, all of it tends to culminate, or ideally would culminate in so having some type of result, right? Some type of answer to a question that you have posed at the beginning. And for me, as somebody that enjoys research, it's always that part of the process that is the most anxiety provoking for me, because I have an idea usually of what I want to happen or what I think might happen. And then when you get to that point where you're analyzing data or getting feedback when it comes to a program evaluation, that's really where the control is completely out of your hands. The numbers will say what they say, and if they don't say what you think they were going to say, or what you think maybe they should have said, then you have to kind of swallow a very difficult pill to swallow and move forward. And then when you get to the publishing part of it, it becomes even more difficult whenever you have people critiquing your work at the highest level and providing feedback on your work. So what does all of that do for researchers? So in chapter 2, we really start to focus on, and you're going to hear me say it a lot, evidence-based practices. Again, the word best practices is just kind of interchangeable with evidence-based practice. But when we have our research informed by some type of theory, or not some type of theory, one of the theories out there, theoretical orientations to research that are out there, it again is not as if we are just pulling knowledge and information anecdotally or, from sources that are not valid or reliable. So we are always looking to broaden the base, our base in counseling of evidence-based practices, broaden our cadre of research we have available for practitioners to be using. Because even if you're thinking about that science practitioner model of research, you all are at the stage where you're really going to be honing in on the practitioner piece of it. That's what you're here for, right? You're here by and large to learn how to become counselors, to learn how to become practitioners. And so it may not be at the forefront of your mind right now that the scientist part of it is always going to be a part of it. You know, and we think of counseling as a quote unquote soft science, right? But the work that we're doing, and even if you think about counseling theorists like Carl Rogers, who did just a ton of work to make sure that the work that he was doing was evidence-based, that there was some empirical validation that the work that he was doing and suggesting that others do was beneficial to client populations and could be replicated with others. And so we are hoping within our profession to ensure that our counselors and our researchers, but our counselors understand the value of evidence-based practices, understand the value of looking to new research and new evidence-based practices, emerging practices even that are coming out to inform the work that you may be doing. So what does this all mean? I'll put it just kind of in basic terms. When you're out there working in 2.5 years, 3 years, however many years it might be, when you finish this program, you're sitting in an office and you're talking to a real human being who trusts you. You are going to be ideally, you know, in charge of continuing your education, continuing your knowledge base about the work that you're doing and the type of work that you're doing and how you're doing it. And that's where the science part will always come into play. Reading journals that you have access to as members of professional organizations, attending conferences and presentations where researchers have gone out and conducted studies to validate, you know, whatever their theories might be, participating and studies yourself. You know, even for those of you that maybe envision yourself owning a private practice or being a part of a private practice down the road, that's where the program evaluation is going to come into play. You're always going to be evaluating the work that you're doing with clients to make sure that it's effective, to make sure that they'll come back and see you or refer other people to you, right? You know, getting those surveys on your phone like we all do about everything after you've received services. Those types of surveys are now being put to use in counseling practices. So whenever somebody has completed a counseling session with their therapist, they're getting a text message asking for that client to do a brief survey about their satisfaction level. And all of that is science, right? All of that breaks down to the scientist practitioner model. It goes hand in hand. Without one, you can't have the other. Without one, you know, the profession would go stagnant. And so we have to have respect for each side of the coin, right? So for those that may be more interested in research and may be more interested in continuing on with your education, looking to a doctorate degree, and maybe getting into research full time, you always have to have that appreciation for what happens in the real world and what happens in real life. And sometimes it gets a little bit easy to forget that, or it might be hard to remember what it was like to actually be working with other human beings. For those of you that are interested in just being in the office and just working with clients, you know, having respect for the researchers that are doing the work in hopes that they can provide information that will make it easier for you to do your job and ultimately better for the clients. And so it all goes hand in hand. I also like chapter 2 because it provides, you know, some, I think, you know, interesting, sometimes funny stories from researchers out there that show that it's just not, it doesn't always go how you want it to go. It's not as easy as it might seem all the time. And that no matter how long you've been in the game, there are always still things that come up that are unexpected. So with that, I'm going to leave you all to the rest of the content in the module. For this week, again, please always go back to that course schedule, but for this week you have your first discussion, first graded discussion. And so I want you to be looking at different programs that provide funding for research. And that's another thing about research. The only time that I would think that you all would be doing any kind of research that was not funded by somebody, that you would be doing independent of anybody else, would be if you are working towards a PhD and doing a dissertation. And I don't recommend doing research all by yourself with no funding. It's not fun. So more often than not, 99% of the time, the other 1% being if you're doing a dissertation, research is being funded by some entity. And there are lots of entities in this country that will fund it. Grant programs pop up all the time. The federal government releases monies all the time that help programs and individuals and researchers, both at academic institutions and elsewhere, to conduct research, again, in hopes that it will better the type of work that is being done and benefit the clients that are being served. So I really want you to look a little bit into these types of funding agencies, what they do, what types of research they're focused on. And hopefully if you've heard of them before, maybe this will let you get a little bit deeper into the work that they're doing, these agencies and entities are doing, the type of research that they're conducting. If you're not familiar with them, then great. This will be new knowledge for you. So again, with the discussion posts, with this one in particular, I know which agencies you're citing, and I don't think, I just want you to, again, I don't need any type of overly formal discussion posts, okay? In your own words means in your own words. When you're responding to at least 2 classmates, just respond to them as you would, colloquially, just speak to them via text in the discussion as you would or might do in class. Rubrics are provided for grading criteria since there are points associated with it. And with that, I will leave you all to it. If you have questions, I will always say this, please ask them either in an email if you think the answer would benefit the rest of the class. Ask it in the questions for Dr. Simpson discussion thread. This class is probably the one out of all the classes I teach, regardless of the semester, that I utilize office hours most often. And so if you at any point, even this early in the semester, if you feel like things are not being explained in a way that that you're grasping, or if there's something that I could do better, please let me know and meet me in my office hours, and I can help you in any way that I can, because again, I totally acknowledge what you have read in these chapters, that this class doesn't always get the best reviews, but if you got to rip a Band-Aid off with the research class, hopefully I can make it a little bit easier for you this semester. So, and enjoyable. Oh, ideally enjoyable. So with that, I'll leave you guys to it, and I'll see you when I see you.